thank you all for joining us this afternoon and for being able to come early. Ms. Luton, if you'll note that all the board members are present. We have one item of business to do in our organizational meeting first, and that's 2.01 to receive, accept, and order filed the certification of the Clerk of Greene County and the results of the annual school election on Tuesday, April 2nd. And I would take a motion that the board accept and order filed the results. Mrs. Twitty, thank you.
Second.
Mr. Lee.
Good one. Yeah.
This better pass.
Yeah.
Very good. Anonymously. Before we adjourn this part of the meeting, let me just pontificate for a few minutes. I want to thank Jean Twitty for her 6 years of service on the board. I think she has performed diligently. She's been able and willing to ask the tough questions that need to be asked. And how many times have we heard Jean say, "That's a great idea, but how are we going to pay for it?" I think her financial insight has been top-notch, and I've really relied on her quite a bit, not just the past 2 years as board president, but for my 5 years I've served with her. I think the other thing that's been great about Jean is that she has a real sense for how our community will respond to issues before the board, and she's able to take input from the community to the board and conversely input from the board back to the community, and you will certainly be missed. And we do have a small little token of our appreciation that I will let you unwrap and show.
It's not a watch. No,
Or
or a
the big one.
Something that John needs to fill for you.
Yeah.
a jewelry box.
Yes. Oh, he's out there. Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. I can't. Yeah.
And he has to match the color.
Oh, how lovely.
Isn't that great?
Very, very nice. I do. I have some.
But let me have everybody else, if anybody else wants to chime in first.
Well, I really didn't know Jean until we served on the board together, and I've really grown to certainly appreciate her sense of humor and her approach, her serious approach to the work at hand. I think the one thing that Jean has a real understanding for is, there is a political nature of this job, and she never really shied away from that and made tough decisions when tough decisions need to be made, and I think really had, like Tom said, a finger on the pulse of our community, certainly involved beyond this board, which I think is a really important thing. And I'm going to miss you, but I know you'll just be a phone call away. So thank you, Jean.
Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Lee.
I did know her before she got on the board, and I still thought that she did great. She will be missed. You will be missed. Just the idea of, seemed like you're always 2 steps ahead of thinking where we needed to be or what we were needed to do or where the community was going to come from and how they would react to whatever the situation was. I just think, your experience there of the pulse of the community, experience as a board member, functioning as a board member, working as a board member was invaluable. Certainly was a great mentor to me from the standpoint of looking at the big picture and functioning as a community member, and certainly will be missed. But I know you got great things at the lake that you've got planned, and I know you guys will enjoy that. So,
Thank you.
Jean, thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
Mr. Hosmer.
I know that Jean told me that she's just personally torn up about leaving the board, and is going to try to keep it together for us, and I appreciate that, Gene. I too appreciate your service. I know that if anybody's followed the board knows that Gene and I sometimes don't agree on things, but I've always appreciated the fact that Gene has always had never let that get personal. We've disagreed vociferously, and she's, again, never let that get personal. As someone said, I think Gene has a great sense of humor, and I think that goes a long way in service on any board is having that sense of humor. So I appreciate that. And the other thing I appreciate about Gene is I think she has a very good internal BS meter. And she just can kind of tell you when something is BS, and she's a straight shooter when she feels that way. And that's another valuable asset that you bring to a board. So thanks for your service.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. I agree with you on all of that.
Bruce.
Yeah.
I think Gene brought a lot of things to the board that, one, being a parent, being a former educator, being in public service, both elected and as a huge volunteer in our community. And you put all those together, it gives you a viewpoint that's unique. And so I think that's what's valuable about board service is there's not shouldn't be a whole lot of people with the same viewpoints, and she brought 3 or 4 or 5 of those together and has been a valuable addition to the school board during her time here, and I thank her also.
Thank you, Bruce.
I've had a chance to work with Jean now for 2 years, so that's probably the least amount of time. But as a new board member, her support was just very critical to me, and she was always someone, or is always someone, and will still always be someone that I will look up to and look to for her thoughts about, especially whenever we were having discussions on financial items. I always felt like that I needed to hear the word from Jean on terms of what we could do and what we should do and what we could do financially, and that's something I'll never forget, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Denise.
If I may.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, if I just.
This is like a roast.
Just.
We haven't started
Sort of.
yet.
Well, thanks for that introduction. As far as roast, I'm ready for that. No, in fact, in cabinet, whenever we have conversations about issues to bring to the board, they always ask, what's Jean's position on this before we go too much further. And then also another conversation we always have, and I always think about it, is common sense. And whenever I have a conversation with Jean, I know I'm going to get a lot of common sense, especially around the county issues, Richard. Anyway, and so a lot of history there, and it really was very, very big support for us and opportunity for us to learn from you in that. So we as cabinet, we as staff appreciate everything that you've done for us, and we hope you and John continue to have a great time and together, and we can understand maybe in many ways now school is going to be part of your conversation. So thank you.
Always will.
Always
Yes.
will. Thank you.
Thank you. So I've tried to pare it down to 15 minutes.
Okay, that's fine.
This will be very brief, but and I did prepare them because I didn't want to leave anything out. I had 2 sets of remarks for tonight depending on the outcome of last week's election. And with our winning outcome, my comments or my sentiments are now filled with gratitude and saying thank you to so many people. Elected public office is not for everyone, believe me. But for those of us who catch the bug, it can be one of the most rewarding experiences ever. My bug, or illness as some have referred to, has involved 21 years of my life. But I've found the cure. Don't file. in all seriousness, this community, Greene County, has given me wonderful opportunities to serve, and I am so grateful for that. It has made a career for me, and that's something I'll never forget. However, my love was in education originally. It still is, and so I think that's what drew me back to board service in particular. I believe the successes of our social and our business communities are directly tied to our schools, public and private, doesn't matter. I believe that Springfield Public Schools are positioned very well to meet the needs of our students with the expectations that our patrons have, especially with the investment that the voters granted us last week. It's a serious, serious fiducial responsibility. So thank yous. First and foremost, thank you to the teachers. You're the ones that deliver the goods every day on the front line, and without you, we would not get to see this wonderful parade of students who are presented awards, meeting after meeting after meeting. You make us look so good, and your work is, in my eyes, the most important work that's done every day. Thank you to Dr. Ritter and to the leadership for charting us through hard financial times, not to mention that state audit thing. In particular, thanks to you, Steve Chodas. He was an amazing piece of that leadership, and we're indebted to you for that. Thank you very, very much. But at the same time, while they were charting us through all of this, they were always keeping their eye on the cutting edge of the approaches to best practices in education. We were concerned about the financial, but we were always focused on the kids. They were always focused on the kids. And to my fellow board members, you said so many nice things, and I'm going to keep all of mine nice. But thank you for your unwavering commitment to doing what is best for our kids. I never came in this room believing that you would do anything different. And the other part to that is you all seem to understand how important it is to do it in a professional and civil way. Not all public boards enjoy that kind of working together, and it's so critical to the community. It gives them confidence in what we do. So thank you for that. And it really has been my honor to serve with you, all of you public servants. Now, congratulations to Annie Bush. You're a leader in our community already, and this board will benefit from your service. They will become your every other Tuesday night family. You even get to eat with them. And with all that, I think there's big things in store for Springfield Public Schools, and I look forward to watching and supporting all of your achievements from my private sector chair. And one more thank you, and that's to the man back there, my husband, John. Let's see, it'll be 38 years of this, of 21 of which you had to put up with public service. However, you did your part too. And we're looking forward to it and feel good about all that the Springfield community has brought to us and to our lives. We're richer for it. So thank you all very much.
While Jean is packing up, I also want to thank the board for allowing me to serve the past 2 years as board president. Had I known of the state audit and the budget cuts and the bond and levy campaign and all of that, I might have bailed out earlier. But I'm very proud of the way we as a board have handled these issues. I'm also proud to have been the public face for district teachers, district staff, Norm. I know we as a board have pushed everyone in the district hard, and you've responded quite well, and you bring us the kind of information we need. Also very grateful for the exposure to our community, and you all who've been in this seat don't realize that until you sit here. This is a minority of your time. The time spent with the community leaders, with volunteer groups, with friends of the schools is certainly more than the time in this room. So I hope I've helped our district and this board, and most importantly our community, and I look forward to continuing in my board service. We will adjourn this meeting and turn it over to Dr. Ritter to run our organizational meetings. Oh, we have to. Well, you have to do that. Yeah, you and I will switch, and you can do that.
Goff is here with us this afternoon, and he's the one that counts our votes. And we know
Every one of them.
Yes, every one of them, and we know it's accurate. So at this time, Mr. Struckoff, you swear our new board members in, please.
Thank you. If Mr. Lee and Mrs. Bush would take a stand right here. I don't know where the cameras are. Okay. What a thrill to say so long to a former colleague that I've sworn in many times in many different positions. And now another lady that I just admire so much and I've worked with so often, and you're pretty good too. If you will please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Missouri. I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of school director in and for the school district of Springfield R12 of Greene County, Missouri, to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Mr. Lee, you want to introduce your family who's with us tonight
I will.
this afternoon?
Back here is my wonderful wife, Lynn, my son, Greg, and my two daughters are, I don't know where they are. They're Columbia or Illinois or somewhere, and somewhere running around town. So Abby and Christy had other activities tonight. So thank them for coming and putting up with the time that I'm not here.
Thank you for sharing him with us.
It's our pleasure.
I appreciate it. Boy, that was good.
That's the best comment of the night.
Hey, do you have family here?
I do not.
Oh,
I left him at home.
left him at home. How appropriate. Anyway, I want to welcome both of you to the board and looking forward to working with you as a staff and looking forward to some exciting things as far as Springfield Public Schools, especially on the cusp of the vote of confidence the community gave us last Tuesday. So we're really looking forward to a lot of exciting things, especially the budget we're going to have discussed later this evening. Now, to step back from the box, at this point, am going to start the reorganization, and I need to take and want to take nominations for president. So at this time, anyone want to nominate someone for president of the board?
Mr. Lieutenant, I would like to nominate Chris Callen.
Is there anyone else? Yes.
Nominate Bruce Renner.
Is there anyone else?
Nominate Andy Hausman.
Okay, is there anyone else? Nominate anyone else? Okay.
Can we speak to those?
Yes, I think that's appropriate. And so if we would, let's see, the first one nominated, Mr. Lee, if you would like.
I will be happy to. I nominated Chris certainly for her experience and leadership. I think we have lots of issues coming up in the next couple of years that are going to be critical to this board and this community, and I think Chris has got those leadership skills, and she's proven it, not only as in her role as vice president this year, but in previous leadership experience. So I think that's, I just feel like we'd be in very good hands with Chris.
Okay. Mr. Hosmer, I think you're the first one, the next one to recommend Bruce Renner, nominate.
I don't have any comments regarding that.
Okay. Mr. Renner?
My comments are on Mr. Hosmer's nomination of me, and then I'll comment on his. So I've got two. I've been on the board a number of years, and while here we had followed a practice, not a policy, so nothing was written down that told us we had to do anything. But 3 years ago, when I was interested in running again, I'd served as an officer. I was told from this, not this table, the one at 940, that we don't recycle our officers, and I agreed. We really had never done that, so I backed away from that, and then last year that was okay to do when Chris was nominated. Now, I don't know when that discussion took place, but it didn't take place when I was at a board table. So, to me, if you don't continue to follow a practice, you have something better in mind to change what you've been doing that will, in this instance, improve the board. But that was never discussed at the board table. So I'm disappointed that it wasn't. Not that the fact that I ever thought that would have been an issue if we didn't have people running that were of quality and already elected to the board with experience. So I think I'm going to withdraw my name because I think that still is a good practice, and so I will not would not accept that nomination. And I'd like to speak to my nomination of Andy.
Andy, are you okay with him pulling his
Well,
nomination?
That's fine.
Okay.
I feel like Andy's been on the board long enough to understand what it takes to be a leader of this board, and I think our practice was a good one. I think it was a good one. There's always times you don't maybe agree 100%, but it allowed people that were elected by our community to serve in the leadership position, and obviously they thought we were leaders or they wouldn't have elected us in the first place. But it didn't allow somebody to stay too long that they started assuming some things, and it just moved people through those leadership positions. And I still see nothing wrong with that. And I think Andy has the number of years on this board to understand what it takes to be the leader, that you speak for the board. When a vote's taken, and other than that, you're just a board member like everybody else. You get one vote when we vote, and that's all you get. And so you run the meetings, but it's a position that's important to this board, and we've just seen it with Tom and the couple of things that have happened. Our election and and going through the audit, those were important times, and so he handled those, I think, in an exemplary way, and that's what happens with your officers. I think everybody deserves that chance if they want to serve.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'd like to thank Jerry for the nomination. I think that while recognizing that I have served in leadership positions on the board prior to this, I do think that each time that we elect officers, we have to look at what we'll be facing as a district, what we'll be facing as a community as we move forward. I think that the times that I have served, we've dealt with some pretty important issues, and I think having served as vice president prior to when I served as president, provided some very valuable service and knowledge and experience that really provided just a foundation to serve. So, we know that in the next 2 years, we don't know when, that we will be guiding our community and our district through probably the most important job that we do as a board, and that's hiring a new superintendent. As much as that pains me, it's, I think, something that we need to recognize. I think Bruce and I are the only ones on the board that went through the last superintendent search, and I was vice president at that time, and I think at some point over the next 2 years when we're faced with that, it would be very helpful to have that kind of experience at the board officer level. I think taking turns, if we have people that the majority of the board feels qualified in terms of serving as officers, I'm not sure taking turns should trump all the rest of our decision making. I think what we should be putting people in place that we feel will lead our board and help to lead the district. So, Mr. Hosmer and I have talked about this. I think we anticipated having this kind of discussion at the board table, and I think Mrs. Twitty said something about unwavering commitment to children, and I think that there's no doubt that all 7 of us who sit here feel that way, and we do it professionally, and we don't, it's not a personal sort of vendetta or grudge, or it's just, we have different opinions about leadership and leadership qualities. I do think that there's value in people that who serve in the role of president, do have some experience as vice president. So, thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Hosmer.
A few comments. First of all, Jean Twitty promised me that she would vote for me for president, so I'd like to thank her for getting off the board before this election came down. I'm joking about that. This is not a contest necessarily between me and Chris Callan, and I've told Chris that. I think Chris would do a fine job as president. She's been president. She's been vice president twice. This, however, is about the principle that I certainly was under the impression we were following when I came on the board 7 years ago. When I came on the board, early on, Jerry Lee approached me about his desire to serve as vice president and asked if I was interested because I had served longer. I said, no, go ahead. Same thing happened with Tom Prater. Same thing happened with Jean Twitty. And each of those cases, the vice president and president were chosen 7-0 votes. And it was because we had that practice in place, and I thought it worked well for the board. The only reason I ran for vice president was because I think we all knew on this board that Ms. Twitty was not interested in serving 2 years as vice president and then serving as president. And I specifically made the comment to members of this board who I'm assuming will vote against me as president that, we probably need somebody serving as vice president before that somebody serving as vice president that wants to serve as president. And the majority of the board at that time thought that that was not all that important, and that's the path that the majority took. Again, I thought that was the wrong path to take. That is my opinion. Since I have announced my interest in being president of the board, I've been told by members of the board, well, you really need to serve as vice president before you serve as president. And I shook my head and I said, well, that's exactly what I said 2 years ago, and nobody was very interested in that. So I think the principle, as Mr. Renner said, I think the principle worked well for this board. And because I think what it does, I think Ms. Twitty talked about civility, and I think it helps with building and maintaining that civility, because when you don't have that, I think you start to think, well, why is this? I mean, it makes you think, other than those reasons, it makes you think, well, being closely aligned with teachers, which I have been. Is that a reason? Being the person that has voted no more than anyone on this board, is that something? You start to think, well, what's going on with this board? And woe to somebody that starts questioning these things. Woe to somebody that says, teachers need more, because you start thinking that. And while I don't think that's true, you sense that. So, again, I think it sets a bad precedent for this board. I don't think it's the way we should go. I think we need to get back to the way we had done things in the past, and I think that would be the better way to do things. So, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to say something at this time? Dr. Prater?
I think that the three newest board members, Mrs. Bush and Dr. Frederick and I, would have been disturbed to come on this board and realize that our vote for officers didn't count. I think every year we seat a new board, and that board may change by 1 seat or 2 seats, or in some potential years 3 seats. We had Rockwood board change 3 or 4 seats this year. And I think that the setup of the board officer election system is designed exactly for that, for taking a new board every year and letting that new board choose their own leaders. I don't think there has ever been anything written in terms of this is the way it's done and this is the order you have to serve, and probably shouldn't be, because that way we're hemming future boards into current boards' expectations. And no matter who wins, who becomes our next board officers, they have been picked by this board. They haven't been picked by a previous board. There's nothing in line of, well, this is the next to serve, this is a popularity contest. I think that circumstances that this board face change every year. We, as two of you have said, we're going to be doing some crucial things over the next couple of years. The person suited to lead this board for that may be different than the person who was suited to lead this board for the past couple of years. So I really do have to argue strongly against this is the way we've always done it policy, because I don't think that fits a newly elected board, and we just now have a newly elected board. It just happens we have 1 new member instead of 3 or 4, but that could be different every year. And I would really hesitate to lock a future board into something we've done in the past just because that's the way it's always been done. And I also think when we talk about board officers, we really have to, and I realize this more and more in retrospect, is we really have to pick people who have been out in the community and have been putting the hours in and have the ability to put the hours in front of the groups that support the schools or the groups that argue against the schools. And Lord knows we've had enough of those over the past couple of years. And I think the minority of the time the board president spends representing the board is in this room. I think the majority of the time that the board president spends is in the community, and as it should be. So that's just my general feeling.
Okay. Anyone else? I want to thank you for your comments. At this time, we will take a vote, and we'll go in order of nomination. And when we'll start, and then eventually you either say yes or no, okay, as far as whether you support the person that was nominated. So for Chris Callan as president, we will start with Dr. Prater.
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Nay.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Okay, so we have a majority there, and so I don't see any reason for us to go and vote for Mr. Hosmer unless you feel we need to. And so we have a vote of 4-3 for Ms. Callan to be the president for this coming year. So congratulations.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate the confidence. We'll now entertain nominations for Vice President of the Board. Dr. Prater?
I'd nominate Dr. Frederick.
Are there any other nominations? Seeing none? Is there any discussion? Andy?
I would second Dr. Prater's nomination. I think Denise will make a fine vice president. Leadership is important on a board, and you know, part of leadership is being a cheerleader for the district, and part of leadership is asking critical questions of the district. And I think at times this board has tilted too far to the cheerleader side and too far away from the critical questioning side. And I don't think that does a service to the board. I don't think it does a service to the district. So I hope with the new leadership intact that we'll realign that balance and understand that while we have a great district, we got lots of issues to face, and we need to vigorously discuss those issues, and because the board needs to be involved in solving those issues. So I second the nomination of Dr. Frederick. I think she'll do an excellent job.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Hosmer, you want to start?
Aye.
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 Congratulations, Denise.
Dr. Frederick?
Okay, we'll adjourn this meeting, and then there'll be a few minutes just to transition and maybe get something to eat, and we'll be back in, what, 10 minutes is it? Or?
No, well, we just need a transition. We're going to eat right before the budget session.
Oh, okay.
Some action items.
All right. So just give us some time to transition. So thank you.
I just have to sit at our same seats.
Do you want to do it?